For 6 years, my world had revolved around a single person, Clara Monroe. I had dedicated a significant portion of my young life to pursuing her, enduring everything from indifference to outright scorn. I even took a knife for her once, a foolish act of devotion that left a scar on my skin and a deeper one on my pride. But no matter what I did, she despised me. When a second chance at life was unexpectedly granted to me, I made the conscious decision to let her go. This resolve was tested when the Monroe and Vance families gathered to propose the arranged marriage between us. Without hesitation, I deferred the opportunity to my stepbrother, Evan. Everyone in the room, including Clara herself, seemed to believe it was some kind of elaborate tactic, a way of playing hard to get. A faint, mocking smile touched her lips, and her delicate brow furrowed in what looked like mild amusement. I looked at her directly and said with all the sincerity I could muster, "I'm serious. I'm not in love with Clara Monroe anymore." Clara's composed expression faltered, her eyes widening slightly as a tremor ran through them. "What did you just say?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. In my previous life, I only discovered the truth after we were married. She had always been in love with my stepbrother, Evan. Our marriage was a cold and silent affair, a pool of stagnant water where my affection went to die. She was distant, her words clipped, her presence a constant, chilling reminder of my failure to win her heart. The only time I ever saw a genuine smile grace her lips was when she caught sight of Evan. It wasn't until I was on my deathbed that the still waters of our marriage were finally stirred, and it wasn't because of me. It was because of Evan. His own marriage had become turbulent, and he frequently turned to Clara for solace. A single phone call from him was enough to make her abandon our home in the middle of the night, time and time again. This pattern inevitably led to a massive confrontation between us. "Clara, have you forgotten?" I had pleaded with her, my voice raw with desperation. "I am your husband!" Her expression was placid, her thin lips barely moving as she delivered the final blow. "Leo Vance, if it weren't for you, I would have been the one marrying Evan. His life wouldn't be like this." She paused, her eyes like chips of ice. "Legally, you are my husband, but in my heart, Evan will always be the only one." I had fallen in love with Clara Monroe when I was 16, pursuing her with a relentless, almost foolish optimism. She was known throughout our school as the untouchable Ice Queen. Despite my own confidence, my looks, and my accomplishments, she never gave me so much as a second glance. Then, when I turned 22, our families decided to formalize an alliance through an arranged marriage. As the true heir of the Vance family, with Evan being only my stepmother's son, the choice was mine. Blinded by my love for Clara, I had eagerly agreed. Had I refused, the honor would have passed directly to Evan. In that life, Clara and Evan's constant communication eventually drove Evan's wife, Diana, to madness. In a fit of jealous rage, she kidnapped both of us. When forced to choose who would be saved, Clara didn't hesitate. She chose Evan. I died under Diana's knife. When I woke up, the world had rewound. I was 22 again. It was the night before the final details of the marriage to Clara were to be announced, and it was also her birthday. In my past life, I had used this day to orchestrate a grand confession of my feelings. It was painfully clear now that even though Clara didn't like me, she had invited me to her party for one reason: to ensure Evan would be there. For 6 long years, I had chased her, and she had grown utterly sick of my presence. Only now, with the clarity of hindsight, did I understand that her annoyance stemmed from the fact that the person she truly wanted was my stepbrother, who was always by my side. She couldn't stand the thought of any rumors about us causing a misunderstanding with Evan. And there I was, stubbornly and blindly pursuing her. Clara had invited a large crowd to her birthday party, held at the sprawling Monroe family estate. As I made my way through the throng of guests, I overheard her best friend Chloe teasing her. "So, is that lovesick puppy Leo Vance coming today?" Chloe asked with a smirk. "Clara, aren't you worried Evan will get the wrong idea if you invite Leo?" A small, calculated smile played on Clara's lips. "Evan is too timid. He wouldn't dare come by himself. If his stepbrother isn't here, he won't show up either." So it was true. I was just a ticket for Evan's admission. Chloe pressed further. "Clara, why don't you just tell Leo that you're in love with Evan?" Clara considered this for a moment before replying, her voice low. "I can't. Evan is shy and kind-hearted. I'm worried that if Leo finds out I like Evan, he'll bully him." Hearing her words, a cold, bitter laugh escaped my lips. I navigated around their small circle and walked toward a larger group of people. I grabbed a few small cakes from a platter and a glass of juice, then found a seat with some old acquaintances. Clara was an imposing figure, tall and slender in a black bespoke pantsuit that accentuated her sharp angles. Her face was a mask of cool indifference, her delicate features framed by a pair of piercing, narrow eyes. Her gaze eventually found me across the room. Within our shared social circle, my infatuation with Clara was public knowledge, an open secret that everyone discussed. I had never seen any shame in pursuing someone I liked. Before my father passed away, he taught me to always fight for what I wanted with everything I had. So I liked Clara, and I pursued her. Chloe's voice, though not loud, carried just enough for me to hear her next comment. "How long do you guys bet Mr. Vance will be clinging to Clara today?" Another voice chimed in with a laugh. "Is that even a question? He'd stick to her like glue if he could." Clara glanced in my direction, her expression hardening with a clear hint of disgust. If the old me had seen that look, my heart would have physically ached. Now, seeing it, I felt absolutely nothing. The disgust in her eyes only melted away when Evan finally made his appearance. After a brief look in her direction, I turned my gaze away. Evan and I had always maintained a civil distance, never engaging in any serious fights. But I knew now that behind my back, he had been subtly plotting against me for a long time. He was fully aware of my feelings for Clara, yet he deliberately cultivated a close relationship with her, making her fall for him. Ever since we were young, I had sensed a subtle rivalry from him, but he never dared to challenge me openly. I was, after all, the only true heir of the Vance family. Clara's gaze softened completely as she looked at Evan. The tense, gloomy expression she wore just moments before relaxed into something gentle. Before our marriage in my past life, I had never paid close attention to the nuances of their relationship. I recalled a memory from our high school graduation day when we were 18. All the students were taking pictures on the campus quad. I had smiled and asked Clara, who had a camera, if she would take a picture of me. She paused for a moment, then nodded. "Sure," she said. "Have Evan join you." I didn't think anything of it at the time and called Evan over. I naively believed that her agreeing to take my picture was a sign that she might have some feelings for me, especially since I had overheard her telling Chloe that she planned to take a picture of the person she liked at the graduation ceremony. She had turned down everyone else's requests. It was only after we were married that I found the camera and discovered that every single photo on the roll was of Evan. In the picture we took together, I had been completely cropped out, leaving only a smiling Evan. When I found that photo, a sharp sting filled my nose, and my body trembled. Clara didn't have to like me, but why did she have to use me to get closer to Evan? The gifts from Evan were always put away with care by Clara, while presents from everyone else were unceremoniously piled into a storage room. In my past life, I had spent weeks designing and hand-polishing a pair of cufflinks for her. Their final destination was that same storage room. Today, I hadn't prepared any gift at all. She didn't like me, so she certainly wouldn't like anything I gave her. As the party began to wind down, Clara started cutting her birthday cake, surrounded by a crowd of well-wishers. When she closed her eyes to make a wish, she looked up, and her gaze fell directly on Evan. As she looked away, her eyes happened to meet mine for a fraction of a second. Her expression immediately turned cold. I offered a slight, cool smile in return before looking away. Amid the cheerful chorus of birthday wishes, I quietly left the party. Back at the Vance estate, I began methodically clearing my room of anything related to Clara. When Mrs. Gable, our housekeeper, saw me packing everything into a large box, she asked with concern, "Young master, are you certain about this?" I nodded firmly. "Yes, I'm sure. All of this. And this too. Please throw it all away." The box was filled with mementos of my obsession. Her completed homework assignments I'd managed to keep, her award certificates from school, even small casual gifts she had given me that I had treated like priceless treasures. She had once given me a watch with a 7-figure price tag as a casual gift. Thinking of that watch, I paused. "Wait," I said. "Mrs. Gable, leave the watch." It was a valuable piece. Just because I didn't like her anymore didn't mean I had a problem with money. I took the watch to a luxury consignment shop to sell it. The clerk examined it carefully, his eyes lighting up. "Mr. Vance, are you sure you want to sell this?" I nodded. "I'm sure." I signed the paperwork, and the watch was sold. In my past life, I had shamelessly begged Clara for this watch as a birthday gift. I noticed later that Mrs. Gable hadn't actually thrown the box of memorabilia away. She had just moved it to a storage room. I sighed. I suppose the image of me being hopelessly in love with Clara was too deeply ingrained in everyone's mind. Even she didn't believe I would give up so easily. After all, it had been 6 years, not 6 days. Letting go of Clara was proving easier than I had ever imagined. I carried the box myself and tossed it into the large dumpster outside the mansion gates. Just as the box landed with a thud, a heavy rain began to fall. After I had showered and changed, Mrs. Gable knocked on my door. "Leo, Miss Monroe is here." I paused for a moment. I already knew. "I know, Mrs. Gable." When I went downstairs for a glass of water, I found Clara still sitting in the living room. Beside her was Chloe. Evan stood nearby, looking hesitant and nervously fiddling with the hem of his shirt. "Clara, Chloe," he said softly. "Thanks for bringing me back. I'll go get my brother now." Clara frowned slightly. "Don't bother," Chloe added in a teasing tone. "Oh, Evan, don't you get it? The person our Clara wants to see isn't your brother." The implication was clear. She was here for Evan. I walked slowly into the living room and took a long sip of water. I glanced at the three of them, finished my drink, and turned to leave. Evan called out, "Leo, Clara is here. Aren't you going to sit for a bit?" I stopped and looked back, offering a faint smile. "No, you go ahead and entertain them." Upon seeing me, Clara's expression had been nothing but cold. She said, her voice flat, "There's no need to entertain. I'm leaving soon anyway." I went back up to my bedroom. A short while later, I heard the faint sound of crying from the hallway. Clara was gripping Evan's arm. Tightly, her usually cold eyes filled with an intense, loving emotion. Her voice was restrained, thick with held-back feelings. "Evan, you obviously like me, so why are you pushing me towards him?" Evan's voice was laced with a soft sob. "Clara, my brother likes you. I'm scared." Clara's emotions surged. Scared of what? Evan looked pitiful and vulnerable. "I'm scared my brother will stop liking me. I'm scared that if he finds out you like me, he'll bully me." Clara sighed softly. "He won't. Be with me, and I won't let him bully you." Hearing her words, a cold smile tugged at my lips. From the moment Evan entered the Vance family and took our name, I had never said a single harsh word to him, let alone bullied him. He knew I loved Clara, yet he would say these ambiguous things to her to tarnish my reputation. What a perfect pair of star-crossed lovers. I turned and went back into my room. I opened all my social media apps and systematically blocked Clara's accounts. Just as I decided I was done with Clara, she started appearing in my life with more frequency. Clara and her friends had a weekly get-together at a private club. As fate would have it, the location of my own reunion with some old classmates was the very same place. We ran into each other in the elevator. She looked at me, her eyes filled with the familiar displeasure and disgust. Chloe immediately chimed in with a snide remark. Well, Mr. Vance followed us all the way here. Your intelligence network is pretty impressive." I smiled back. "You give yourselves way too much credit. Why would I be chasing you?" Chloe said sarcastically, "Of course you're not chasing me. You're here for Clara, right?" After a moment, Clara's expression turned icy, her tone a clear warning. "Leo Vance, I'm discovering you have a really thick skin." I stared back at her coldly. "Clara Monroe, I'm discovering you're a real narcissist. I was on this elevator first. If anyone is stalking someone, it's you two stalking me." The elevator reached our floor. Clara squinted, giving me a sharp, sidelong glance. There was 1 week left until the official announcement of our arranged marriage. This time, I would not be choosing Clara. After being reborn, I often found my mind drifting back to high school, where I started to see the early traces of Clara's feelings for Evan. The school had organized an outdoor field trip, during which I slipped and fell down a small hill. Someone ran to get a teacher and the school nurse. Clara arrived before any of them. She looked nervous, a thin layer of sweat on her forehead. When she saw it was me on the ground, she let out a sudden, audible sigh of relief. She turned and asked the student who had gone for help, "Didn't you say a Vance boy fell?" The student looked confused and nodded. "Yeah, Leo Vance fell." Chloe arrived shortly after and said to Clara, "Clara, the one who fell was Leo Vance, not Evan." Clara's crush on Evan had started all the way back then. She had liked Evan for just as long as I had liked her. A week later, on the day of the official announcement of the Monroe-Vance marriage, I was deliberately late. My tardiness shocked everyone. Whispers began to circulate that Clara would lose her temper and reject the marriage on the spot. I entered with a slight smile. "Sorry I'm late." The banquet officially began. Looking at the exquisitely beautiful woman in front of me, my past life flashed before my eyes like a sped-up film. When I looked at her again, my resolve was firm. I said clearly, "I am withdrawing from this marriage." Her expression remained indifferent, but the crowd turned to look at me in astonishment. Chloe's tone was mocking. "Leo Vance, playing hard to get, are we?" I spoke seriously, my voice carrying through the quiet room. I'm not in love with Clara Monroe anymore. That's why I'm withdrawing from the marriage." Clara's head snapped up, a flicker of genuine panic in her eyes. Evan came to my side and whispered, "Leo, haven't you always loved Clara? Don't be so rash." I turned to him, looking down at his pleading face. "I did love Clara Monroe, but I don't love her anymore. Do you understand?" Leaning closer to Evan, I gave a small, knowing smile. "Evan, don't you like her? You've said quite a few bad things about me to her, haven't you?" As I spoke, I watched the color drain from his face. He quickly regained his composure, his eyes welling up with tears. Clara's brow furrowed tightly as she stepped in front of Evan, shielding him from me. She looked at me with that same indifferent gaze, her tone slow and deliberate. "Leo Vance, your love has caused me a great deal of trouble. A man should have some self-respect." Chloe, standing beside Clara, exclaimed in shock, "Is Leo serious? Did what you said push him too far? Did he really give up on you?" I snorted softly, meeting Clara's eyes. My voice was firm. "Clara, I said I really don't love you anymore. Don't worry, I won't bother you again." Clara suddenly trembled, her pupils contracting sharply. In that split second, our eyes met, and she saw the look in mine. It was calm and resolute. The desperate, pleading emotion that used to be there was completely gone. The change unsettled her. The words, "I don't love you anymore," hit her heart with a resounding thud. A faint, tingling sensation, like a weak electric current, spread through her, leaving her numb. It felt as if her heart was being squeezed in a vice. Clara frowned. The look in my eyes felt familiar, as if she had seen it somewhere before. She shook her head, dismissing the thought. The person who had saved her brother all those years ago was Evan. It couldn't have been me. I looked at the Clara in front of me. She was more mature and composed than she had been 8 years ago, having shed her youthful immaturity. Falling for her had been instantaneous. Giving up on her had taken a lifetime. The year after my father passed away, my mother remarried. I spent a whole night crying at his grave on the mountain. The sky was dark, and the air was cold. Clara had appeared, standing silently behind me. "Are you done crying? It's dark. I'll take you down the mountain." That was the first time she had shown me any kindness. The second time I saw her was at the hospital. I was a bone marrow match for her 8-year-old brother. I was wearing a surgical mask. She cried and begged me to save him. I thought that by saving her brother's life, she might come to like me. If not like, then at least not hate me. But it didn't matter. She still loved Evan. Last night, I had found a bracelet I had missed while cleaning out my room. It was the good luck charm bracelet she had given me before I underwent the transplant surgery for her brother. I was about to take it out and return it to her. Suddenly, Evan grabbed my hand, positioning his body between me and Clara. "Clara, you asked me for an answer, didn't you? I'll tell you now. I love you. I don't want to give you up to my brother anymore." Clara seemed to be in a daze for a moment. Her voice was slightly hoarse as she thought it over. "Okay." Before the arranged marriage with the Monroes, my mother had told me that whether we went through with it or not, the Vance family fortune would be mine. The marriage was simply a way to maintain the relationship between the two families. I raised my wine glass. "Congratulations, sister-in-law." The thing Clara Monroe had sought her entire life was finally hers. She looked stunned, but there was no joy on her face. Because I loved Clara, I had worked tirelessly to keep up with her. I raised my score by 122 points in the final 100-day countdown to the college entrance exams. After the exams, I was just 1 point shy of her score and got into the same university. After graduation, I followed her to a job at the Monroe Corporation. I ran into her assistant, Mr. Wu, while taking the elevator to her office. His expression was hesitant and complex. "Mr. Vance," he began, "Ms. Monroe said you're not allowed in her office anymore." I smiled and asked him, "Anything else?" Mr. Wu took a deep breath. "She also said to stop bringing her breakfast. You should go downstairs." I nodded. "I'm not here to bring her breakfast. I'm here to resign. Since I ran into you, could you please give my resignation letter to Ms. Monroe?" Mr. Wu took the letter from me, his expression skeptical. After reading the black and white text, he looked up at me with surprise. I raised an eyebrow. "I'm serious. Please give it to your boss." Mr. Wu went up to the 22nd floor, and I went back the way I came. Half an hour after returning to my desk, I received the approval for my resignation. Mr. Wu had always been efficient. When they found out I was leaving, my colleagues threw me a farewell party. After a few drinks, I went to the restroom. As luck would have it, I ran into Clara. I instinctively tried to avoid her, but she caught me in her peripheral vision. Leo Vance. When she said my name, my heart still gave a reflexive skip. What rotten luck. When you want to see her, you can't. When you don't, she just appears. I let out a soft, and walked past her confidently. She didn't say anything else. After washing my hands, I was about to leave when she suddenly spoke. "What are you doing here?" I pointed towards the private room. "A get-together with colleagues. You know, a party with your employees." As I turned away, she said, "Get home early." I didn't say anything and went back to the party. After completing all the paperwork, I officially resigned. The moment I stepped out of the Monroe Corporation building, I deleted her contact information. When I got back to the Vance estate, my grandmother immediately pulled me aside. "Leo, sweetie, Grandma has a friend whose granddaughter is very pretty. Would you like to meet her?" I chuckled softly. My grandmother's eyes crinkled. "Is that a yes?" I shook my head. "Oh, come on. Just meet her once. I promise if you don't like her, Grandma won't force you. It's good for you young people to connect." My grandmother had never liked Evan or his mother, but as long as they didn't cross any major lines, she kept her opinions to herself. She suddenly sighed. "You still can't get over that Clara girl, can you?" I smiled. "Grandma, I really don't like her anymore." My grandmother's rough hand stroked my head, her tone gentle. "Grandma has seen a lot in her life. You would have a hard time with her. To be blunt, she probably likes Evan. Sigh, that girl has no taste." I playfully whined, "Grandma, I really don't like her anymore. I'll meet your friend's granddaughter. But if we don't click, you can't push me into any more blind dates. I want to go to the overseas branch to learn. Is that okay?" My grandmother's eyes narrowed into a smile. "Yes, of course." We met at a tea house, a popular spot for business meetings that was secluded and quiet. I recognized Lily at a glance, and she recognized me. We chatted for a while and got along quite well. Neither of us was desperate to get married, so the conversation flowed easily. Before leaving, we ran into Clara and Chloe. Chloe let out a jeer. Well, well, you followed us all the way here, and here I thought you'd actually given up." Lily slowly walked up from behind me and stood by my side, raising an eyebrow. "Who's this?" she asked. I smiled and introduced her. "That's Clara Monroe, my sister-in-law." Clara's eyes flickered, and she froze for a moment. Chloe was stunned too. "They never expected me to introduce her that way," I added. Don't be so full of yourselves. Clara's mother had always been good to me. Even though I didn't like Clara anymore, I still kept in touch with her mother. Soon, it would be her birthday. I had someone custom order a watch for her from abroad. I had felt a genuine mother's love from her. On the day of her birthday, I gave the gift to my grandmother to deliver. I didn't go myself. Every year, for her mother's birthday, I had been exceptionally attentive. In the evening, I received a call from Clara. I had deleted her number but hadn't blocked it. "Leo, it's my mom's birthday today. She asked me to call and see if you're coming." I declined politely. "No, I can't. Please wish your aunt a happy birthday for me." Clara was surprised when she didn't see me. She asked her mother, who told her, "Oh, you mean Leo? He said he had something to do and couldn't make it. He had the old Mrs. Vance bring me a watch. It's quite beautiful." Clara paused, then nodded. She had used her mother as an excuse to invite me, but I had refused and even changed how I addressed her mother. I used to call her Mom with every other word. Her mother was happy about it. She had lost a son, and I had donated bone marrow to him and lost my own father at a young age. When Clara heard me call her mother Auntie, she was slightly lost in thought. It wasn't until I cheerfully said I had to go that she snapped back to reality. My father's grave was very close to Clara's brother's. When I went to pay my respects to my father, I also visited her little brother's grave. He had been a well-behaved, adorable little boy. When I donated bone marrow for him, he was the one comforting me, puckering his little lips and blowing on my hand. "Brother, Mommy said if you blow on it, it won't hurt. I'll blow on it for you." He also took out a nearly melted milk candy from his pocket for me. "If you eat candy, the medicine won't be bitter." Before the surgery, he secretly slipped a Bodhi seed bracelet into my hand. "This will protect us, you know. My sister said so." I smiled and accepted it. That was the last time I saw him. Now, looking at this bracelet, I sighed. I packed the bracelet and sent it via a local courier to Clara. I attached a sticky note. "This is the Bodhi seed bracelet your brother gave me before his surgery. I know what it feels like to miss someone who has passed away, to receive something of theirs on a random day. That's why I didn't throw this bracelet away." Local courier services are fast. It arrived by evening. When Clara called, her tone was urgent. "Leo Vance, how do you have that bracelet?" I was silent for a moment. "Your brother gave it to me before his transplant surgery." I hung up. Half an hour later, Mrs. Gable knocked on my door. "Leo, Miss Monroe is at the gate." I was taken aback. "Clara Monroe?" Mrs. Gable nodded. I said, "Let her in, and go get Evan." Mrs. Gable didn't leave. "Miss Monroe said she's here to see you, and Evan isn't home." I sighed. "Mrs. Gable, just tell her I'm not home either." After she left, I got a call from Clara. I rejected it. She called again. When I finally answered, her voice was hoarse. "Leo Vance, let's meet." I grunted in agreement. "Let's talk on the phone." She burst into the mansion, heedless of everything. I had no choice but to step out of my bedroom. "Clara, what do you want to say?" Her eyes were dark, the usual coldness gone. Her lips were a straight line as she spoke. 6 years ago, were you the one who donated bone marrow to my brother?" I nodded. "Yes." "What? Is your conscience finally bothering you? Want to pay me back?" I took out the good luck charm she had given me all those years ago and cut it in half with a pair of scissors. Clara's eyes suddenly turned red. She knelt on the floor, desperately picking up the pieces. When she heard me say yes, A wave of bitter regret surged from the bottom of her heart. For so many years, she had been misled by Evan. At the time, I was completely covered up, with only my eyes visible. She had met Evan first at school, and only knew the donor's last name was Kane. The doctors were unwilling to disclose more. She knew Evan was a son of the Kane family, and her friends had told her he was kind. So she found Evan and thanked him. He froze for a moment, then smiled and said, "You're welcome." After that, her best friend told her I was stubborn and bullied Evan. So she developed a dislike for me, afraid my pursuit would cause a misunderstanding with Evan. Her voice trembled now, slightly hoarse. "Leo Vance, why? Why didn't you tell me?" Looking at her red-rimmed eyes, I said, "Clara, you don't even know who donated bone marrow to your own brother, do you? You're pretty pathetic. Evan's not home. If there's nothing else, you can leave." I turned to go, but a pair of warm hands gripped my arm tightly. "Let's get married." I shook her hand off and opened the security camera footage on my phone from the night she visited with Evan. "Sister-in-law, does this look familiar? You don't hate me now? Go on and protect your precious Evan. Oh, by the way, since I'm the bad guy in your eyes, I don't mind playing the part. In a few days, Evan can change his last name. There will only be one son of the Vance family, and that's me." She tried her best to hold back her sobs. "Leo, I'm sorry. I misunderstood." My grandmother came out and pulled Clara away, persuading her earnestly to go home. My grandmother was furious when she found out that Evan had taken credit for my bone marrow donation. After my mother flew back from abroad, my grandmother tearfully complained to her, "That's it. You're getting a divorce. My Vance family doesn't want a bloodline of unknown origin, and we certainly won't have someone who dares to slander my own grandson. That mother and son won't get a single penny." On the day of my mother's divorce from her stepfather, Evan looked at me with red-rimmed eyes, trying to act pitiful. But my mother just said coldly, "That's enough. I've been more than lenient with you and your mother. You don't have to act pitiful with me. I know who my real son is." The news spread like wildfire. Everyone knew I was the only true son of the Vance family. I was preparing to fly abroad to study. The day of the divorce, my mother cried in front of me for the first time. "I thought they were honest people," she sobbed. "But I neglected you, and I never expected the things they did behind my back. It was my fault. I'm so sorry." My grandmother insisted on coming abroad with me, not wanting me to be alone. I agreed. The next time I saw Evan, he was in a scuffle with a woman at the hospital. When I saw the woman's face, a chill ran down my spine. It was Diana, his wife from my past life, the one who killed me. She was roaring, "You said you were a Vance, but you're just a fake. How dare you lie to me?" Seeing Diana, I immediately turned to leave. Evan pointed at me. "It was him. It was his fault. He's the real son of the Vance family. If it weren't for him, my mom and I wouldn't have been kicked out." Diana's face flushed with anger as she rushed towards me, the knife in her hand the same as in my past life. I immediately ran. A surge of adrenaline helped me outpace her. Suddenly, Clara's car screeched to a halt, and she shoved me into the passenger seat. She walked towards Diana, her eyes red. She grabbed the blade with her bare hands. Blood trickled out. Diana yanked the knife free and stabbed towards Clara's heart. At the last second, Clara managed to throw the knife into a storm drain before subduing Diana. After bystanders restrained Diana, Clara collapsed. She looked at me and smiled, her lips forming the words, "I finally saved you." Isabel was rushed to the emergency room and was unconscious for 3 days. My grandparents rushed over, hugging me tightly. My grandfather, who rarely smiled, had red-rimmed eyes. I couldn't imagine the heartbreak they must have felt in my past life. Clara was in a coma for a week. Just as she was about to be declared brain dead, she woke up. Her voice was weak as she asked her mother, "Mom, where are my birthday gifts?" her mother cried with joy. "They're all in the basement. What are you looking for?" Clara had dreamed. She dreamed that I was dead. She dreamed that she had been reborn. But when she came back, I had already rejected the marriage. She felt an inexplicable sense of unease and rushed to the hospital where I had died in her past life, where she saw Diana chasing me with the knife. In her coma, she dreamed of both our lives in their entirety. She managed to force out a few words. "A pair of cufflinks, with my name engraved on them." It was a birthday gift from me in our past life. Her mother sent people to search all night, but couldn't find them. Isabel's eyes welled with tears. "Mom, I want to go home. I'll find them." Still injured, she searched for the cufflinks all night, but she couldn't find them. In her past life, I had confessed my love to her with those handmade cufflinks, and she hadn't cherished them. Clara's mother called me. "Leo, I'm begging you. Can you please come over? The birthday gift you gave Clara, a pair of cufflinks, is missing. She's been looking for it non-stop." I sighed softly. "Auntie, I didn't give her a birthday gift this year. You don't have to look for them." By the time she called me, I was already at the airport. Clara rushed there, still injured. She looked anxious and panicked, her body trembling. Our eyes met for a moment before I walked through the security gate. She was stopped by the staff. She shouted desperately, "Leo Vance!" She knelt on the ground, her eyes red, looking helpless and desolate. After I flew abroad, I heard that the Monroe family sued Evan and Diana. Diana was sentenced to prison. One day, I answered a call from an unknown number. It was a familiar voice. "Leo, why can't I see your social feed anymore? And I can't call you." I told her the truth. "I blocked you." The line went cold. I hung up without hesitation. Clara was left with permanent injuries. Her heart was damaged, confining her to a wheelchair for life, partially paralyzed. Her hands trembled, unable to lift heavy objects, and a piercing pain would shoot through her limbs when it rained. I wonder which is more painful, that kind of pain or death. Her mother begged me to see her, just once, but I refused every time. After my mother retired, I took over the Vance Corporation. Clara's story. In my past life, it was only after Leo died that I learned he was the one who had donated bone marrow to my brother. It wasn't Evan. Evan had misled me, making me believe he was the kind donor and that Leo was cruel. By the time I knew the truth, it was too late. Leo was buried on the mountain with his father and my brother. I sought out a Taoist priest who said he could grant me another life in exchange for my own longevity and health. The price was a lifelong disability, a life worse than death, never finding peace. I agreed. After being reborn, Leo was reborn too, but he came back earlier than I did. By the time I returned, he no longer loved me. He hated me so much he threw away everything I had ever given him. The watch I gave him, he sold. I saw it on Chloe's wrist. She said she bought it from a second-hand luxury store. Only then did I finally accept that he would never want me again. In this life and the last, I am the one who owes him.